I start getting echo of an electro scene building up in Abidjan. And I was like, oh, this is interesting because so far, like everything that I see, everybody does like basically mainstream music. Like I grew up and I started my career off of mainstream music. And I have great friends that I support that do mainstream music, but I have a personal affinity to underground music. Like that, I think that's my identity and stuff. And I felt that there wasn't a real underground scene here in Abidjan. Or it was, but it was just like hidden and stuff, you know, like it was really in clusters. So I hear of this electro scene. A friend of mine, Jeremy Lescott, who organizes the party's Baseline Abidjan. So I'm like, yo, there's this party, Baseline Abidjan, man. Like they play house music, they play electro music. I'm like, word? I'm like, come on, how did I not hear about this, man? Like, I need to go check this out. I go to the first one, I see it, and I'm just like, wow, no, there's this community that exists here in Abidjan that actually like listens to house music, that listens to electro and stuff. And I'm talking at a time where like social media wasn't as what it is right now, you know. So like you needed to be in the know to know of these events. It wasn't like today, like you just post something on Instagram or Facebook and everybody automatically knows about it. Like at that time, there weren't like it wasn't that prominent over here. So I see this thing and I go check the dude. I'm like, yo, listen, I'm a DJ. Yes, I come from hip hop, but I love underground culture. I love house music. I love electro music and stuff. Like I would love to play at one of your parties. I was like, yeah, sure. You know, like we'll see. We'll organize the next one. We see how it goes and stuff. And yeah, we just left it at that. He did a couple of other parties. I never, like, not that I didn't hear of him, but he always had like his clique of DJs and stuff. And I didn't want to force it. I was like, yo, when the time comes, he's eventually going to call me and stuff. So during that time, I'm still at Bao. I meet Isa Shabella DJ and Paula. At the time, another DJ who's Spanish, who used to live here as an architect, and she since moved back to Berlin. She lives in Berlin now. Big up to Paula. And they decided to form this collective called Electropique. Okay. Basically, like to do like house parties and stuff. And I was really excited about it. They came up to me. They were like, yo, listen, we listen to your music on SoundCloud. And we like your vibe and we like to organize a party and we would like to book you. And that was like my first time actually getting booked for like a party or like an electro party and stuff. And I was like, yo, I'm down for it, especially if something organized by ladies, because it's an environment that's dominated by men. Like most DJs that you hear over here like are men. It's only recently that the doors are starting to be open for like females and stuff to become DJs here. So I was like, yeah, absolutely. I'm down with that. Like, let's go, let's do it. So we organized the first party, which was great. I came back. I had another friend of mine through Cortega. Her name is Tarsil.
Big shout out to Cortega.
Yeah, Corte. The big man. He got married, actually. Congratulations, bro.
Congratulations to the brother, man. Him and Dina Marie. Congratulations
yeah. And so I met Tarsil, who was in town. She had this party scene in Bamako, and she was interested in booking me. So that was my first international booking. I traveled to Mali, to Bamako, with this, what was it? Fulizig. That was the name of the event. Fulizig. Okay. And it was something incredible. Like that was really geared as to like my direction of what it is that I wanted to do musically. And at the time,
what year is that?
That was about hold on, let me see. I think we're at 15. So I think like about like 16, within 16, 17 or something like that. Yeah, between those 2 years.
Okay.
And at the time, I was starting to gear like to listen more. Like I was like, okay, I know of house music, I know of electro, I know of tech, of all these like, you know, like people that I mingle with, but I didn't know anything about like Afro house per se, you know, because it was in my head. I was like, yo, we have African music. There's this, like, let's mix the two together and do something. And I had like no idea that it was like an Afro house scene that existed. And I came in contact with your music actually. And I listened to the track with Ubu Sangare. And I'm a huge fan of Oumou Sangaré. My mom is from Mali, so like that's my childhood music and stuff. And I listened to this track and my head just explodes. I was like, yo, what the hell is this, man? So I go, I check your SoundCloud page, I listen to the ancestral mixes and everything, and I'm like, oh, so that's what you can do with African music, with traditional African music? Get out, man. And it just like changed my whole perception of music, you know? So by the time I went to Mali, what was beautiful about it is that they had linked me with this traditional Malian group called Inizi from Ségou in Mali that played traditional instruments. So it was a mixture of me mixing and them playing like live, you know, which was
amazing.
Dude, I think honestly, like I created things today. We have La Sunday and everything, but I can say by far that was one of the highlights of my career. Like just that idea of the merging of like two worlds and understanding each other through music.
And of course, going back to the land of your mom too, right? And,
exactly. It had like such a symbolism. It has like a really strong symbolism, and it was amazing. At the time, there was something very important because before that there was another Electropique where Isa and Paola booked Raoul Conan. Raoul K. Big up to the bro, Raoul K.
On le salue.
Oh man, legend. And
he's in Abidjan. He moved in Abidjan. He lives in Abidjan.
Yeah, he came back. Man. He came back. You were supposed to link up to come see you when you were here 2 weeks ago.
No. He hit me up. He was like, I'm coming, but probably.
He was doing some groundwork at the house.
Yeah, exactly.
They didn't finish on time. But great big up to him. So I go to the Electropique to meet up with Raoul K. Discover. I'm like, yo, who's this guy? They're like, yo, he's Ivorian. I'm like, what? I'm like, he plays house music. I'm like, what? He lives in Berlin. I'm like, what? So I go, I see this guy, I do my research, I see like he's huge, like huge. And I'm like, how the hell don't Ivorians know about him here?
Yeah,
like it doesn't make sense, you know? So I go, this party was ridiculous. It was like they took the old offices of the Ministry of Tourism, who was like abandoned now and stuff, and they did this rave party. Like I felt I was in Berlin. It was ridiculous. Like,
is there footages of that party, for example?
Honestly, I have to ask because
it would be dope, man. You guys should
to have that for the archives and stuff is really important for the development of the electro scene here, because that one was really a pillar of the parties here in Abidjan. So I meet this guy and I'm like, yo, man, dude, great respect. Honestly, like what you're doing is ridiculous. I started getting into his music also. And so by the time I go to Bamako for my first international gig, I actually opened my sets with Senekela, with his track.
Big tune.
Yeah.
Big tune.
So I play Senekela and I have this traditional musicians taking it with the balafon, with the thing. It was incredible. Like I was like, yo, at this point I can die right now and be good. I can be good
and go to heaven.
And I played, but by the time I played the tracks with Oumou Sangaré, they were loving it. They were like, oh my god. So I had to give like a great shout out to like all my bros, you guys and stuff, for like really like setting the path for us, like, you know, the young generations coming in and stuff and doing this thing right now. You guys like were,
you guys are really, doing it big time, man, and
a really big influence, man. And it was like really, I can't thank you enough for that, man.
No, man. Actually, the truth is that, you know, it's amazing to see that the music is such a beautiful entry point to so many emotions and so many opportunities to just expose people to that experience, which is, you know, essentially the experience of Africans living abroad. And that's not from me, that's from Sister Wooni. Africans living abroad, ALA. Wooni, Sister Wooni came up with that quote, and she and it's very true. It's, you know, but now this is from me. It's more about us missing our continent, us missing this energy, and just trying to like translate this emotion into sounds to such a level of you know, holding such a level of respect that you just want to make sure that, you know, you doing it as right as as possible.
That's possible.
And then when you have, you know, guys like, Louis Vega. I mean, my son would have not reached Oshunade, Louis Vega, and the whole scene. As a matter of fact, I was welcome. I was really blessed to be welcomed, and I came in at a time where the scene needed a bit of a change musically, or they needed a little bit of a fresh breath, and then I came with that sound of mine, the ancestral soul. And the big tune that actually shifted the landscape was Punch Coco, a track that I did with Yaku.
Yeah.
And Punch Coco really was a big shifter. And as well, right before I did this collaboration with the late Mangaraka Amara, I did a remix of his song called Willy Lay. And that one was massive to the point where, like, I believe everyone on Traxsource back then was like charting it, like it was charting like number one on the whole Traxsource site. So that was a massive impact. And yo, man, for somebody like you to not only pay homage but also allow that music to inspire you to now create your own sound, your own identity. It's something that is amazing, and that's what we do, folks. It's like so many people want to hold on the fame and on the I'm all this and that. And it's like, I mean, you're only as relevant as people want to be relevant.
Exactly.
I mean, yes and no, but for in the absolute, yes, it is.
You have to share. You have to share knowledge. I think, like, honestly, I give thanks. I mean, like, I don't think I'd be the person I am today if it wasn't for my dad's love for music. He had a huge vinyl collection where we're back in Brazil. Like, my first exposure to music before I could even speak, I used to crawl to his vinyl collection. The first thing I learned was to place a vinyl on the record player.
But you see, that's funny about our parents, man. And God rest your father's soul. But I'm pretty sure your dad and your mom are very proud of you, man. And I may certainly not know them, but there's something there's a dichotomy with some of our parents where you can see such a love for the music that they have or they had.
Yeah.
Yet they did not want that life for their kids. I understand to a certain extent why, but it's almost like there's a frustrated dream. Maybe some of them wanted to be musicians.
Somewhere around it. Like, I think, like, late in my dad's later years, like, because like, as African parents and stuff, like, the energy is different. Like, we don't have the same dynamic as like our Western friends and stuff with their parents. There's a lot of communication, especially like, those just little things and stuff that with time we miss out. So later,
the communication happens in the silence.
Exactly. Like, we don't speak, but we understand each other. So in the later years, like by the time I started getting really more serious into my DJ career, I asked him once, and I was like, we're just like tripping around and stuff. And I was like, yo, listen, like, if you hadn't been a diplomat, like, what would you have been? And he was like, yo, listen, honestly, I would have been an architect because I love architecture. And that's something I never knew, like, had I never asked him that question, he would have gone like that. And I would never imagine that. But like you said, I think, like, that's somewhere regret. He always had a passion for music. Like, I always had a passion for music. And somehow, I think, like, me being the person that I am today and doing the career that I have, it's somehow paying tribute to that passion that he had. Like, he transmitted that to me. And like, growing up, like, listen to like, my first exposure to real, like, African music with the LPs of, like, Congolese music, Senegalese music that I didn't know about, from Brazilian music, because he was in school and he particularly grew up in Brazil. So, like, from the samba to the bossa nova scene to everything, like, I would dove in that, to even the US scene, like the soul, the funk tracks. Like, I listened to Stevie Wonder, Song of the Key of Life, and I didn't even know who Stevie Wonder was. But I knew that music spoke to me. Like, it just there was something about it. And later, it's funny because, like, as I grew up, I have, like, these key moments in my life that I distinctly remember. Like, for me, being a baby, putting, like, record LPs in my dad's record player. To
You
me
remember
being a
that?
kid, yeah,
Wow.
I seriously, like, it's like one of my first memories from being like a baby, like a really like how do you call it, a toddler. And then when I was younger, like in my childhood, there was this show like every Saturday morning. It was
In Brazil,
like,
that was.
no, that was back when we were in Abidjan, when we came back
Okay.
to Abidjan.
Okay.
Every Saturday morning, there was a Disney show. They were used to show like all Mickey Mouse cartoons. And me and my older sister, we used to crawl into
Club
our parents.
Dorothée.
Hein? Même
Club
pas Club
Dorothée.
Dorothée. C'était même pas sur le Club Dorothée. It wasn't something else. It was just like just like a 30 minutes. They just like used to show like these old like vintage like Disney tapes and stuff from the 60s. And I used to go and watch them with at my parents' room, because like we moved back, we had a small apartment, and the TV was in my parents' room. It wasn't.
They knew.
So
They're like, those ones.
yeah, every Saturday and stuff, we used to crawl in their room and stuff and watch like eat cereal and stuff and watch those shows. And though the particularity about those shows, there was no speech, it was just images, but the background was Motown music. I would never forget that. The background of the shows was Motown music, from Diana Ross, from the Jackson Fives, to like all the Motown 70s, like 60s music. Like later, like I learned what it was, but at the time I didn't know. And I was like, oh my, I remember this from like when I was a baby. Like this music sounds familiar and stuff. And I was like, of course, like as a kid, you're watching the cartoons, but the music was like triggering something in my head and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And then, so flash forward, my high school years in New York, the apartment where we live with my dad, downstairs at the ground floor, there was a supermarket. And every time we used to go grocery shopping, same thing at the grocery shop, they used to play music from the 60s, 70s and stuff. You know, so I listened to that. And yeah, it kept on triggering all these memories every time that came back, like that followed me all throughout my life to this day, you know, which is like, wow, when like my first dabbles into music as a beat maker, I was like, I need to be a sampler. Like I need to sample like like I need to take parts of this and adapt it to like what it is I want to do with like hip hop, because at the time I was like in hip hop and stuff. But he always followed me throughout my life. And now today, even as a DJ that plays like mostly underground house music and stuff, like I try the same way to incorporate those bits and pieces and stuff into the music that I do today, you know. But it's ironic that like how everything just like followed me all throughout my life and stuff, you know.
It's ironic, and at the same time, everything is.
It makes sense.
Everything
you
is
know,
making sense.
like the way like I look at life now, within the 10 years I've been here, that I lost both my parents, because my movements was triggered by the loss of both my parents, like from my mom's passing that forced me to move back home, and recently to my dad a couple of years ago. But like every time like I like, you know, you always sit back and like you think, oh man, I should have done this, I should have done that, I should have done that. But like I came to the conclusion today that I don't believe nothing happens randomly. Like everything happens for a reason. Like everything happens for a reason. It's like character development. You need to go through these adversities and through these different things that life throw at you at the most randomest times in order for you to grow into the person that you're supposed to be, you know? And
it takes a lot of courage to understand that.
Oh, of course. Like it was like a huge process, and I'm still into that process. I don't say that as like a fully developed person and stuff, but like it's something that I came into understanding. And I remember like one of the last things that my dad said to me, I was like, no, man, Dad, you know, I'm not gonna go back to school to go do my master's or go do this and stuff. And he came to understand. He was like, yo, just follow your way. He say, follow your way, man. That's the last thing that like face to face he said to me. And today, when I see with last Sunday and everything that we created ever since, that became this huge thing, like it's somehow as like a blessing that like they both given me from up there, you know. So that's what I said. Like nothing happens randomly. Like everything happens for a reason. Like you may come to adversities in life thinking that, oh man, you know, like I said I wanted to do this and it's not working out, and try to give up. But it's just like, no, your time hasn't come in yet. You just need to believe in the process. Believe, like if you have an idea or set goal, you know that you're gonna make it. Just believe in the process. Eventually, your time is gonna come. You know.